I just don't get it. Why do people spend $80,000, $100,000 or even more on a ute or a 4x4 SUV and then just drive them around suburbia, chewing up fuel, road and parking space? Surely something like this Jaecoo J5 EV makes much more sense. It's zero emissions, it's affordable, it's small, yet still capable of carrying you and your kids and some groceries. Wouldn't that make more sense? Well, to tell you the truth, what we're going to do is we're going to test it in its urban environment, where it hangs out best, and we're going to find out if you should be trading in your Prado or Ranger for a Jaecoo J5. Hang on, it's going to be an interesting test. Jaecoo is a spin-off from the Chinese auto giant Chery, and the J5 is its first EV in Australia. It's a compact 5-door, 5-seat front-wheel drive SUV, and it drops into a fiercely competitive part of the market, fighting the likes of the BYD Atto 2, the Leapmotor B10, the MG4 and the new GWM Aura 5. One of the big advantages of the J5 is its $36,990 drive-away pricing, which amongst its competitive set, only entry-level BYD Atto 2 can match at $31,990 plus on-road costs. Now you might think the J5 for that sort of money is a bit of a pauper pack, but it's not. Dual zone climate control, an 8-speaker sound system, powered, heated, ventilated seats. Sorry, I'm trying to remember all these things. There's so many of them. And also it's got synthetic leather seat trim, which someone in Germany who's apparently an authority on this stuff says it's dog friendly. So must be true. The pricing is backed up by a long 8-year vehicle and battery warranty, neither of which have kilometre limits. There is also 8 years worth of roadside assist and a very affordable 8-year cap price servicing program. At a glance, the Jaecoo J5 has a bit of Range Rover about it, but study it a bit longer and it's really just a simple rectangular box on wheels. And that's fine considering the urban hauling job it's designed for. You do get some good exterior gear led by a sunroof and a power tailgate. There are also roof rails, LED headlights with high beam control and alloy wheels. All right, powertrain. Let's not have a look. Look, I can tell you, there is a powertrain under there, I assure you. I checked by this little thing before. It's orthodox what you get set up under here. There's a e-motor, front wheel drive, driving the front wheels via a single speed reduction gear, all very orthodox. And feeding it is a 58.9 kilowatt hour LFP battery, which again is about the right size for the segment. This type of battery chemistry has no problem being fast charged to 100%, unlike more efficient and expensive NMC, so it's a swings and roundabouts thing. The fast charge rate is only 130 kilowatts, but it's not a huge battery. Once you're on the road, the consumption claim is a very impressive 13.9 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometres, and that equates to a claimed 402 kilometre range. That's in the ballpark for these small electric SUVs, neither the best or the worst. The J5 again belies its cut pricing when you settle into the driver's seat. It just looks and feels better in here than what you might expect. Two-tone trim is well executed and coordinated. Trim quality is pretty good. I mean, this synthetic leather's fine. Overall, the presentation is a bit minimalist. It's very straightforward. There's no surprises or anything like that, but it's just basically well done. With its power adjustable driver's seat, which is also nice and large in size, a reach and rake adjustable steering wheel and a nice big left footrest, you are going to get somewhere near a comfortable driving position in this car. The only thing I'd raise just from a personal point of view, for me, I don't think the steering wheel drops down quite far enough. Look, that's personal, it may not apply to you. As much as I like a lot of what's going on in here, the lack of physical buttons for things like air conditioning and audio control are a disappointment. You have to adjust both through either touch screen, or you can use voice control, or, you know, for the volume, you can access it through the steering wheel spokes. But really, what's wrong with just having a couple of dials and things like that to operate? So much easier. All right, let's talk about storage. And as is the common way these days, the gear selector is now up on the steering column rather than sitting down here in the center console. Now that's great for creating space down here. But in this particular case, I would love it if Jaecoo did a better job of differentiating the gear selector stalk from the indicator stalk, because it's no fun rolling around the corner in neutral with no blinker going because you've operated the gear shifter to indicate left rather than actually use the indicator stalk, if you follow what I'm saying there. Would anyone actually understand that? Anyway, on we go. Lots of storage. Narrow but deep lidded bins. Spring-loaded cup holders. Dual smartphone pads here. This one's the charger. Another bin back here behind the infotainment touchscreen, and a big bin down here with the USBs on the correct side for the driver. Love that. Now, big door bins, and this glove box, not only is it sizable, it's well damped. Good stuff. The price of the J5 has to make impact somewhere, and it does in the infotainment because there's no embedded navigation. Now, for a lot of people, wired and wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto's going to suffice. And hey, you do get karaoke, so I guess that's a win. Now, the other thing about this car that's really noticeable is voice assistant, which is really well tuned for my Aussie dialect, my strine. I can ask it to do quite a bunch of different things and it will respond. So that's a sign of really good local tuning. Open the driver's window.
Okay.
Open the sun blind.
Okay.
Turn on AM 774. Radio.
Opening the radio for you now.
Israel will hold off on any further attacks on Iran's gas fields.
The digital instrument panel is small and it's stuffed full of indecipherable information I'm not sure I even want to know about. Look, for an old bugger like me with fading eyesight, it's a real pain. And I'm afraid it's a common issue with Chinese cars. Their instrument panels are just too small. The J5's camera system resolution is startlingly good and very thorough. It is better than much more expensive cars. Sure, the lack of physical buttons in the J5 is a pain, but at least some of the safety systems are switchable via a drop-down, quite easily accessible menu, and there's not an endless repetition of bing-bongs and ding-dongs needing to be switched off. Kia and Hyundai, take note. For the money, there's a comprehensive amount of driver assistance, although the AEB did clamp on the brakes on the freeway one day for no good reason. Thankfully, it only happened once. Right, into the back seat, and it's accessed by a nice wide opening door, but once you get in here, it's not that generous in terms of space. I'm 180 centimetres, I've got the driver's seat set up for me, and you can see my knees are actually touching the seat. Toe room's good, headroom's good, even with the big sunroof, but overall, just not feeling the love I was in the front seat. There are dual map pockets and dual cup holders in a fold-down armrest, but only a single aircon vent, so you can fight over that, and only a single USB, so you can fight over that too. All right, let's talk about the boot, and it's accessed by a power tailgate, so pretty good value for money feature that in a $37,000 car. Now look, the boot is not overwhelmed with features, but it does have a couple of storage bins, some lights and some hooks. Space-wise, it's 384 litres to the back of the seat, top of the seat back, 480 litres to the roof. So for the segment, competitive. Commendably, a frunk adds more storage up front. But search as hard as you like back here, and one thing you won't find in the J5 is a spare tyre, which is disappointing and a bit puzzling because Chery made a big song and dance when it launched the E5, a direct rival for the J5, with a full-size spare tyre. Under the skin, they're basically the same car. So what gives, guys? Look, it's fair to say that since Chery arrived back in Australia a few years ago, the various models it's presented haven't overwhelmed us with their driving cohesion. But the graph's been going in the right direction. They have been getting better. Well, this J5 is the newest model from the Chery stable to arrive in the country. So does that mean it's going to be the best driving? Let's go and find out. So traditionally, vehicles of this size, you're thinking of wheezy four-cylinder petrol engines that can barely get out of their own way, slow, laggy, noisy, grumpy, and the rest of the dwarves. But electric vehicles have changed all that. E-motors have some traits that are absolutely fantastic for urban driving. Number one, you get all your torque delivered from step-in throttle, so accelerate from a standstill, away you go. It's quick, it's seamless, it's quiet. It's perfect for the cut and thrust of city and suburban traffic. Got to duck through an intersection quickly, beat some traffic. E-motor does it brilliantly. Same with a roundabout or something like that. So, and it really marries well with the size of the car. The compact nature of the car makes it very easy to duck about using this powertrain. Now, we're in eco mode most of the time to save electricity, reduce the charge level, maximise our range. But even in eco mode, this thing is nice and responsive. Look, there are also normal and sport modes that make the powertrain feel that little bit friskier, but really eco mode does a good enough job. There's lots and lots of adjustment actually to this vehicle, probably more than what you need. There's multiple levels of cruise control, and when you're going around corners on cruise control, it will adjust your speed, though thankfully not so egregiously that you feel the need to stomp on the throttle to overcome it. It's a better tuned system than a lot of the ones that we've encountered. And there's lots of other tuning too. You can tune the steering, you can tune the brake sensitivity, all sorts of things. You go through the controls of this car, and really, to be honest, it all seems a bit overkill to me for what is a small family car. I mean, are you really that interested in tuning brake sensitivity? But overall, the actual dynamic behaviour of the vehicle, ride, handling, steering, braking, it's pretty decent for what it is. Like, we're just nicking around through these side streets and we've got light, quick, accurate steering. Look, it's an electric assist system. It has a little bit of glugginess to it, and that's a thing that can be tuned out of it, but really, it's not a detail thing, but it's not a major impediment. The car handles pretty well. It doesn't have any nasty habits that I've found during my testing. The ride isn't as good as the handling, I would say. It's got a bit of sharpness to it when it hits a bump. Could be tuned a little bit more finitely. It needs a little bit of Aussie tuning expertise to get it to that next level, perhaps. But overall, as a driving experience, especially around town, this thing is working with you, not against you, and that's really good stuff. So, what about the range capability of the Jaecoo? Well, the claim is 402 kilometres, and I think 350 kilometres would be a fair bet, given what we've experienced, which is real-world consumption around the 15 to 17 kilowatt hour per 100 rate. Now, the claim is 13.9 kilowatt hours per 100. We haven't seen that city, suburban, freeway running anywhere. It's been more mid-teen and above. So, not a superstar drive by any means, but also not a dribbling mess. The Jaecoo J5 slots into its intended family commuter role by being inoffensive and pliable, just what you want. It's also well priced, well equipped, has a well presented interior with good space for its footprint, mostly inoffensive driving, and perhaps best of all these days, no fuel bill. Sure, there are other things that are less clear, like how little we know about Jaecoo's long-term durability, after-sale support and resale value. And being an EV, there's no point buying one if you can't sort your charging access out. But out in the brick veneer suburban sea, where so many of us spend so much time in our driving duties, commuting and running our families about, shopping, what have you, lots and lots of short runs, the Jaecoo J5 just makes so much sense. Certainly much more sense than using a Ranger or a Prado or some other ute or 4x4 in that role. The J5 doesn't pretend to be a tower or an off-roader, and 4x4 SUVs and utes shouldn't pretend to be commuters. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and please tell us what you think of this video in the comments below.